Hey everybody, in this video, we're going to containerize your Node.js application using Docker, and we're going to deploy it to Azure Container Apps. So in this video, you're going to learn how to containerize your Node.js application using a Docker file. We're going to build and create as well our own image using Docker. We're going to set up Azure services like resource group, Azure Container Registry, Azure Container Environment, and of course, Azure Container Apps. Okay, so we're going to set up Azure Container Registry and the access keys. So we can use it to deploy our image. So we're going to push it to Azure Container Registry. So all of these things, we're going to use Azure CLI to generate and scaffold all of these services. Okay, so we have to install the following softwares. So first, Ubuntu 22 long-term support, WSL. So you have to go to Microsoft Store in your Windows app and click this Ubuntu 22. Okay, so you have to search WSL, then download this guy. Okay, so as you can see here, I have already installed it. So yeah, you can install in your own machine. Okay, so this one is required by Docker Desktop. So we also need to install Docker Desktop in our local machine. Okay, so to download it, you need to go to docker.com/products Docker Desktop and then click the download Docker Desktop and install it in your operating system or in your local machine. Okay, so once installed, you're going to see something like this. Okay, so later on, we're going to manage our builds, images, and container using Docker Desktop. And of course, we need an developer environment for us to test our code. So of course, Visual Studio Code, you can download it. For sure, you have this installed already on your machine. Okay, so our agenda for today is basically we have to create our Node.js application from scratch and install Express. Then we're going to create our own Docker file. Okay. Then we're going to build an image from it. Okay. So next thing that we're going to do is basically create an Azure resource group. Okay. And then we're going to create an Azure Container Registry. So basically, this is the service where we can host our Docker images. Okay, so we're going to push our generated image to this registry. So later on, we can use it. We will also create Azure Container Environment where we can put our Azure containers. So we will also need Azure Container Apps. Okay, and we're going to use that image from the Azure Container Registry to build our container app. Okay, let's proceed to the demo. The demo, okay, so as you can see here in my screen, I have my Visual Studio Code open. So I just created a folder called AZ Docker Node Project. Okay, so we're going to use this directory to build our application. Okay, so let's open up terminal. Okay, so let's initiate our Node.js application. So npm init y. Okay, so as you can see here, package.json has been added to our project. Then we're going to install Express because we're going to create a basic API endpoint. So let's install npm install Express. Okay, there you go. Express has been added to our project. We click package.json. If we go down, you'll see Express here. Okay, so next thing that we're going to do is to set default file when we run the application. So let's add a start property in the script. So this will be, if we run npm start, this will run the node command and it will go to index.js. Okay, so let's save it. So as you can see here, we don't have the index.js yet. So we're going to add it. Okay, let me just clear this terminal. Okay. Okay, so let's add it index.js. So let's create a basic Express API endpoint. Okay, so fonts express to require express. We're going to import the theme that we have installed. And we're going to initiate Express application. And we're going to set the default port to 3000. And let's create our first endpoint. Root function, our function. Okay. Request response. Response that says, okay. So in our case, our API will only display like a message. Hello from Azure Container Apps. Okay. And let's send this API to the support. On log server coming and port with the port. Okay, so let's save it. All right, so let's run the application. So npm start. Okay, so now it's running to 3000. We go here. You'll see hello from Azure Container. All right, so let's terminate the program. Clear the terminal. Let's close this thing. Okay, so next thing that we're going to do is to create a Docker file. Docker file. Okay, so first thing that we're going to do is to use the official node image from Docker Hub. Docker Hub. Okay. From node, we're going to use 16 Alpine for this demo. We're going to set the working directory as well that we want in our container. So let's call it app. So we're going to copy our package .json. So everything that starts with package, we're going to copy. Okay. Then install dependencies. So we're going to run npm install. Then we're going to copy the code. So copy that this command will copy the current directory. Okay, so where the Docker file is located. And we're going to expose port 3000. Okay, let's put some comments there. So we're going to execute this command. cmd npm start. So we're going to start the application. Okay. All right, so that's it. It's very straightforward. Okay, let me. Okay. All right. So that's our Docker file. Okay, so now let's create Docker ignore. Docker ignore. So we're going to ignore node modules, npm debug, log, that git files, that Docker ignore, and of course Docker file. Okay, so that's it. Let's close this guy. Oh, basically Docker ignore is basically the same thing with git ignore, where it ignores folder files by the Docker, these files. Okay, so let's close it. Okay, so now we're going to build our image from our Docker file locally. Okay, so if we go to Docker desktop, containers, as you can see, we don't have containers yet at the moment. Images as well. There's no active builds at the moment or build history. So we're going to build now. Going back here in our Visual Studio Code, let's build our first image from this Docker. So Docker from this Docker file. So Docker build, we're going to tag this as AZ Docker node. So this will be the name of our image. And we're going to put that. So basically Docker will look in this folder. Okay, so let's just use that. Let's click enter. Okay, so as you can see here, our image is now building. If we go to the Docker desktop, you will see there's a one active build at the moment. So currently Docker is building our image, as you can see here. Okay, let's go back and wait for it to finish. Okay, let's close this Docker file. Save. There you go. We go to Docker and images. You will see here the image that we have built. Okay. So AZ Docker node. So this is our local image. So later we're going to use this. Okay, so going back here, let's clear the terminal. All right, so next thing that we're going to do is to log into our Azure account. Okay, so we need Azure CLI to do this. So if you don't have Azure CLI in your machine, you have to install it. Okay, so try to install it using MSI if you're using Windows. In my case, I have already installed the installer. So if I go in my terminal, I can check my version. Okay, so currently I have the 2.7. Let's clear this. Okay, so next thing that we're going to do is to log in our Azure subscription account. Okay, so let's just click Azure Login. It will retrieve our subscription. Okay, there you go. We're able to log in our account. So let's clear the thing. Okay, so next thing that we're going to do is to create an Azure resource group. Okay, so if we go to portal.azure.com, you will see my services. Okay, so currently I have no services at the moment. So we're going to build it using Azure CLI. Okay, so we're going to create an Azure resource group. So it's basically a group that our Azure services we can put all together to one group. So let's create Azure group, create with the name parameter, my RG1, location will be East US. Okay, so we have two parameters. We have the name, we have the location. So let's call it my RG1. And there you go. The resource group has been created for us. If we go back here and refresh the page and click resource group, you will see my RG1 has been created for us. Okay. Okay, let's go back to Visual Studio Code and clear the terminal again. So now let's create Azure Container Registry. Okay, so ACR. So basically ACR means Azure Container Registry. So let's create space. So resource group, my RG1. So we're going to use my RG1. We're going to name it as my RG1 ACR1 SKU basic and location is US. Okay, so let's enter. Azure Container Registry is now created. Let's clear the thing and verify it in Azure portal. So if you click this resource group, as you can see here, my RG1 ACR has been created for us. Okay, so let's click this. All right, so let's open my RG1. Okay, so let's open our container registry. Okay, so as you can see here, these are the details. So this is the server, my RG1, ACR1, azure.cr.io is the server. Okay, so now let's provide an access key for this registry so we can push our image to this registry. Let me click this admin user. Okay, let me show this password and copy. Okay, so later we're going to use this. Okay, so be careful on this password. So you have to protect your registry. So after this video, I'm going to remove these services. So it won't be available for anybody. Okay, let's copy this guy. Okay. Later on, we're going to use that. Okay, so we're going to log in to that specific registry. So ACR login, the name of the registry. So the name of the registry is my RG1 ACR1. Okay, let's log in. All right, so next thing that we're going to do is basically create a Docker tag, tag to that Azure Container Registry. Okay, so Docker tag az Docker node, so which is this guy over here, and we're going to map it to our Azure Container Registry. So let's go back to the portal and copy this login server and paste. And we're going to name our tag inside the Azure Container Registry. So let's uh let's make it the same. So az Docker node. Okay, so let's enter it. All right. So we're able to tag it in this name. So as you can see, it creates a new image instance for us, which has a duplicate image ID. So basically, this is just a tag. So we're going to push this guy to Azure Container Registry. So to do that, Docker push my RG1 ACR1 server name and our Docker node, our image, az Docker node. Okay, let's enter this one. So as you can see, it um it's now pushing to our Azure Container Registry. So if we go back here and go to repositories, as you can see here, there's no repositories yet because it's still uploading. So later on, you're going to see it. You will see the AZ Docker node has been pushed to our Azure Container Registry. Okay, so we're going to use this image to build our container. Okay, so let's go back to Visual Studio Code. Let's clear the terminal again. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is to create an Azure Container environment. Okay, so to do that, AZ Container App ENV stands for environment, and we're going to create a new one. So name my container environment one as a name, and resource group will be my RG1, same resource. Location still East US. Okay, so let's create. Going back to Azure portal, if we go to home and my resource group, by right, it will create from here. So it will also create a log analytics workspace automatically. So yeah, let's wait for it to finish. So basically, container environment is basically the container group. It's like a resource group of the containers. So for example, if you will be having a multiple containers in the future, um, you can group them into container environment. So you can uh, group your containers into one unit. Okay, our container environment has been created. Okay, if we go back here in our resource group in Azure portal, if we reload the page, you will see my container environment has been generated for us. So the type will be container apps environment. Okay, and it also creates workspace for log analytics. Next thing that we're going to do is to create a container app, and we're going to put that container app to our container environment. Okay, so as you can see here, if we go inside our container environment in Azure portal, you will see there's no containers at the moment in this container environment. Okay, going back here, let's create our container app. All right. Okay, so to do it, AZ container app and create command, and we're going to pass in name parameter. We will call it my container app one. Okay, and next parameter is basically resource group. Resource dash group my RG1, which is our resource group. And another thing will be image. Okay, image. Okay, so to provide the image, you need to go to Azure Container Registry. So going back here, you need to copy the server name, which is this guy. Okay. And you're going to use your image as well. So our image name is basically Azure Docker Node. Okay. So next parameter will be environment. So my container environment one, we're going to use that. And we're going to set up CPU. So in this example, or in this demo, let's put one. Memory 2 GI. And the target port will be 3000. Okay, same with the configuration in the Docker file. Okay, so ingress will be external. Okay, then next parameter will be registry server. Okay, which is this one. And we're going to put in the registry username. Okay, so in our case, you need to go to the access keys and copy this one, the username. Put it there. So basically, by default, it's the name of your registry. And we're going to put in registry password. Okay? So this password is basically this guy, any of the two. Okay? Let's show this. Okay? So please protect your password. So in this demo, I'm going to delete all the services at the moment. So by the end of this video, you will not be able to access this username and password anymore. So let's copy and paste it here. Okay. And yeah, let's enter and build our first Azure Container Apps app. Okay, let's just wait for it to finish. Okay, so now it's running. Okay, let's go back to our container environment. So once the build has been finished, we can see the updates over here. And there you go. This has been created for us. And let's refresh. And there you go. You will see your container app has been created. Okay, so let's click the container. Okay, my container app one. Now let's click this link to preview our application, containerized Node.js application. All right, and there you go. We have successfully created an Azure Container App using our Azure Container Registry image that we have built from scratch using Docker from our Docker local Docker machine up to Azure Container Registry. And from that registry, we're able to create an Azure Container application. All right, so I hope this video helped you to learn Azure Container Apps, Azure Container Environment, Azure Container Registry, setting up access key, and publishing your Node.js application on the fly using Azure CLI, and create this Azure services. Okay, so thank you so much for watching the video.